So today we're going to look at Avani's natal chart. I have it pulled up on the sheet that I'll send to you so that you can keep this for reference. And this is the little cheat sheet here to tell you what everything is. And then also just what is the most energy influence of the chart. So what stands out to me here is Avani has a lot of cardinal energy. So 15 more, way more than fixed or mutable. So she has a lot of Aries placements. Her risings Libra. She is a initiator, the fire starter personality here. A lot of masculine energy. So where some people internalize energy, she is external energy. So she's the mover, the doer, the walk the walk, not talk the talk. She's actually, Avani because of what she does, not because of what she talks about or her inner thoughts. It's out there, and she is inspiring others to do things because she doesn't hesitate or doubt herself to do stuff. She just gets things started. And the energy of this cardinal sign is a lot in the house of relationships. So she's inspiring people that she meets, and she's inspired by people who she interacts with, who she chooses to make part of her tribe. And I get this feeling all throughout her chart that there's just this theme here of independence and of creating, doing, experiencing. It's like Avani came in this world with this like fire in her heart that she just wants to experience as much as she can in like this fearless way. And all of her relationships are going to be meaningful or they're not going to happen. She's not interested in superficiality. She's very much interested in real, passionate connections with people and making sure that she has left people an impression of who she is, and she's got something from them too. Like she really wants to not waste any time in this life and just like blaze through. So it's pretty exciting to look at because when I first saw Libra rising, sometimes there, the theme for Libra risings a lot is balance. Like we need to work on this duality in our hearts and behaviors and try to seek a balance here. But then when you have all this cardinal masculine energy, it's like, well, I feel like that's more focusing on this partnership, that when she's interested in other people and experiences, yeah, she needs to find a balance there and self-discipline. But it's really about taking this little fireball energy and intermingling it with another person, or working on these interpersonal relationships where she can really be who she wants to be and really impact someone else. It's like this transfer of energy. So Avani, you have like this powerhouse of energy, and people that you come in contact with, you're looking for meaningful partnerships. It doesn't have to be long term. Aries isn't a super long term situation, but it's very impactful. It's that Mars, I came to do something and I'm going to do it, and you're never going to be the same. That's pretty powerful stuff. Um, the moon, so we did the rising sun, the moon in Scorpio here, it just intensifies this Mars energy that you have, where the sun in Aries is an exalted situation. So the sun wants to do things, and Aries is the ruler of that, and it's this external fire energy, and the sun is so happy there, can get a lot done. When we go to the Mars energy of Scorpio, it's more internalized, Sometimes it's more self-defeating. It can be about recognizing our shadow side within us. Sometimes it's this situation of having to learn things the hard way, of first going through the pain to become the healed version. And it's kind of like that what doesn't kill us makes us stronger energy. But in the moon, it can be, what's called the fall position, because it's just the moon is very emotional and changeable. It's kind of like the tides in and out, and it just kind of flows. Where Scorpio is that fixed energy, and it's wants to die on its hill sometimes over causes. So I just talk about this for a little bit because with all your Mars energy, I could see you having these strong feelings. And then the moon is, our instincts and our reactions to things. And I could see there being like this lashing out component to your personality where you kind of may be a little bit more argumentative or passionately um, debating things a lot with people because it's a little bit more of the not letting go, where Aries gets mad, blows up, moves on. The Scorpio moon's going to make you a little bit more reluctant to let things go. Yeah. So you're going to have the chance here in your chart that you chose, where you're going to learn through experiences with people how they are able to let things go and let go of resentments and past hurts and things, that the sensitivity that you have is so wonderful, and it really makes things more personalized to people. But sometimes it can leave you wounded, and you're going to learn through experiences with other people that you don't have to feel that way, that you can let it go too. And you can become a little bit lighter in your load over time because of that. So it's just really great, powerful energy that you have, and it just breeds a lot of inspiration. So when you see a chart full of passion and energy on both sides, inner and outer, I think, well, what are we supposed to do with all that energy? And then you come to your fifth house, and oh my goodness, it's so packed too. So it just makes me think, okay, well, then you need to have some kind of artistry in your life. If you're not already an artist, this chart is like begging you to create something. So in Aquarius, you have your Venus. So that means that you are just naturally super creative and you need to be making something. So you might dabble with like performing arts since you have a lot of fire and cardinal energy, or the fine arts of like that Aquarian ingenuity of like producing things that no one has seen before. But definitely something, because where you might have the interest in your personal relationships and like in the sixth house of like serving people and working with people, like being of use to people, that can take a lot of your area of interest and make you like a really great hard worker. But this doesn't super have to do with like large groups of people. This part is kind of like, what are you on your own creating that you can give to the world to inspire people? And just make sure that you are making time for that too, because it looks like you are going to have a lot of time where you're intermingled with other people, because I feel like that's what you want. That's how you're going to learn about yourself more. So the sun in the sixth house, knocking on the door of the seventh house, a lot of your becoming who you are is going to be found through what you do in the community to help the world at large. In your job, I feel like it's going to be something that is serving, like what can you do to make things better in this world. and you're going to learn about yourself through that and confidence and understanding of like where you really fit in. But just make sure that you're also getting into your artistry. Like you have a very creative and unique perspective on things that other people don't have. And it needs to be shared because it, in the long run, is part of the way that you help inspire. Like that Venus in Aquarius is just very like unconventional, some like oddities, but you need this freedom to express your individuality. So just make sure that you find something creative, that you're spending time, that it's not time wasted, that it's actually super important for you. And then Venus in Aquarius, you might just find that you meet somebody that you romantically connect with through this kind of like unconventional art, where other people might feel like uncomfortable, um, connecting with people through that way. Like you don't. And you're almost more like traditional emotional connected relationships like don't make sense to you. Like you kind of speak another language in love, that you need to be in the world around people that are like you. So the more you get into what your creative outlet is, the more you're going to connect with people who get that, and you'll start to feel more secure in your differences. um your part of fortune is kind of like where things work out for you and what you can do to like effortlessly feel successful, and that's also in the fifth house in Aquarius. So I really feel like whatever, like let's say that you're like some kind of great painter, and then you put your stuff in like the art world and Aquarius, so it might through online ventures, communicating and sharing your artwork through online platforms. And then like you meet these people who also do that, and you're like, oh wow, like people get me and I get them, and it's so much more comfortable because I'm not alone in this. Like there are people like me out there. And in the fifth house, it just makes your part of fortune in a situation where you're like you express yourself in this loving way, and that you enjoy doing this with other people who appreciate what you have. So I hope that makes sense. Like you're going to produce something that people are going to be like, oh, wow, Avani, this is really unique and special. And I never considered this perspective until I saw it. And now I'm inspired to do that too. Look what I did. Let's connect over this. But see how it was your original artwork first. That's what is kind of happening here. And you'll enjoy talking about what you've done and like create this little community of a unique perspective. So it's really cool. And painting is just a random example. So it does not have to be painting, but it's just a fun way to focus in on that part of your life. So let's see. You have an opposing Saturn to all of this seventh house energy. So I feel like when it comes to personal relationships, you're very inspiring and expansive. You're attracted to people who intellectually stimulate you with that Mercury in the seventh house. And I just a funny, unique thing that I have noticed, they have said like this ascendant opposition with your Jupiter. It's just kind of like this little weird mark. Like ancient astrology would say that when you have this position, it's just like you're destined to marry like some great king or like high priest or like wise person. Obviously, in today's world, like that's probably not really going to be the case. But whenever Jupiter is opposing the ascendant, it just means like some great benevolent relationship is going to bless you. So like you would come through like great gains through your marriage. So like back in the day, that would be like if you were going to be married off to some king somewhere and then help your whole family. So it goes to show that like when you're finding these attractiveness in people, it might be a little unconventional in the way that you are attracted to somebody, but like that's okay. You're not really super influenced by what other people think of you. So like just go with it. And then eventually when you find this person, it's going to be a very beneficial relationship to you. And with Saturn opposing the seventh house, sometimes that can just take a little longer. So Saturn's in your first house in Libra. That's a very different energy than a lot of your other placements. So it's kind of like you have to grow into this first house's self. So you have to grow, mature, spend time getting to know and being comfortable with who you are before these personal relationships are really going to stand the test of time, because Saturn wants you to put the work in first, get a sense of a firm foundation of who you are, and then go there. And with the moon in the second house, that shows that some of that work is going to be through building your self-esteem. When you meet people, you come off very confident and sure of yourself. But the second house with the moon wants you to really understand what your values are, and that it's not by what you have or what you can offer or what people can see like materially or like how much money you make. It's not about that that's really going to make you feel great about yourself. It's about your own self-worth, how much you really value yourself when no one's looking at what you have and what you've accomplished. It's like this inner self-esteem that takes time to develop. And it's different than just being publicly confident. It's like inner, I actually really love my shadow side. I love who I am. I love who I am not. When I make mistakes or I'm not who I think society wants me to be, even if you are appreciated publicly, you need to make sure that you understand and appreciate yourself internally. And then that's when you can have this foundation to build these lasting relationships that become super beneficial to you. All right, let's see here. Let's move on to the next area. Let's talk your nodes for a little bit. So you have a south node in Gemini and a north node in Sagittarius. So we are the inverse relationships here because a Libra rising just automatically flips all of our houses. So you are the the way you experience the world sometimes can have like this backwards feeling to you. So where you're in a setting of one thing internally, you're actually going through a different perspective of it. So the signs we can think of our psychological experience, and the house we can think of our physical setting. So where you have a Gemini psychological experience, the ninth house is the higher learning. So you're actually here that you've already mastered this great voyage of experiencing the the beyond and the deep experiences of what this life is for. So like we've already Avani somewhere, and it could be early in life, it could be a past life, depending on what you believe. But you've already experienced like travel, different cultures, like higher philosophies of like the big picture of life. Like, why are we here? What are we doing? Like, what's after this? Where did we come from? What are all these other people experiencing? Like, you've already done that. And in a Gemini way, psychologically, you've communicated with these people and learned so much about having fun through other people's eyes of cultures and learning like their languages and being able to submerge yourself in that. And that's wonderful. So you're coming into this world or adulthood with this great ability to communicate with people who are not in your everyday life. When you are on vacation somewhere across the world, you're naturally going to adapt to their stuff and appreciate all that they do and like get the sense of awe and wonder and curiosity of everything. And that is a great ability to communicate with strangers, which is wonderful. I think that plays into this like confidence people see in you when they first meet you. But you've already mastered that. You can wow people that you're never going to see again. And you can mingle your way through strange environments where other people would kind of freeze up. Like that's not you. Like you can handle it. So that's a wonderful strength to have. So as you age, you're actually more interested now in experiencing what it's like to not see what other cultures are doing or other ways of living. You actually want to spend more time in your everyday situation, in your community. You want to make deeper connections here in the sign of Sagittarius. Now you're wondering, well, what's the bigger picture of being part of my community? Why is why is it that all these people and I live together here in this neighborhood? Like, what are we supposed to be doing together to get more out of this situation? I'm not going to remove myself and go to other places long, actual physically away from me. I'm going to stay in my community. I'm going to be interested in my close relatives, my siblings. I'm going to be connected to my neighbors. I am interested in expanding my beliefs of what's happening here on this level. And then you're going to be sparking people in this community to push themselves to get a greater experience themselves. So you're kind of helping break through this monotony of our everyday and kind of helping bring in like spontaneity and um, like a deeper philosophy of why we do our everyday things. So it's kind of exciting because you think, well, like, don't I have to travel across the world to get like this excitement and these different ideas of how people do things? But this time you're kind of like, no, I want to stay where I am. And I kind of want to blow people's mind in there every day. I'm here to light the fire in people. That is not just wake up, do your normal routines until you leave this life. There's meaning in all of these things that we do and all of these interactions. And I'm going to find out what that is. And I'm going to inspire everyone at my community level to see that there's more to it than just this. There's meaning behind this. So that's pretty powerful. And you have your Pluto in the third house. So either your siblings, there's a transformative energy here in Capricorn that there's this transformation of the way that you communicate here. So sometimes that means power struggles too. And then the sign of Capricorn that there's some kind of like structure or practicality that needs to be understood. There's this powerful transformation that wants to happen in the way that you communicate with people and the way you communicate with people around you that you see frequently, and that you can kind of work through any restrictions that you've had in the way that you express yourself. Pluto can be kind of explosive sometimes, and like we talked about with your Mars energy, sometimes that means that you can be more explosive when people are challenging your ability to control like the conversation, or if you feel like you're not being heard or understood, you can want to like lash out. And in Capricorn, that can kind of be in like this cold burn kind of way, like showing them like your authority, that like don't you know who I am kind of stuff. And you're kind of faced with challenges in that department until you learn a easier, softer way of communicating your message with people. And then with Mercury in the seventh house, I feel like the people that you're around through time, like that's how you're going to help learn that through these practice interactions. You're going to see someone else do it in a direct way, you know, in Aries, but not like in any kind of like power, like condescending way. They just say what they need to say, and then they let it go. And you're eventually going to surround yourself with people who teach you how they communicate what they're thinking in a more accepted way. And that's part of one of the major themes here. And you can see it come back to your third house because that's where your North Node is. And that is one of your ways that you want to learn. It's not through force, it's through this back and forth, reciprocal understanding, understood communication. And that's how we build communities. And that's how we really feel like we're working together and experiencing the greater joy of being together. All right, let's see what else I wanted to talk about here. Let's see. Oh, I just thought it was interesting that your Mars is in Pisces. So you have all of this fire energy, but then you also have a lot of water energy. So that just goes back to this little cheat sheet here, we call it. So you have 7 fire. You actually have 8 water. But this includes things that are not your primary like planets. You know, this includes like parts of fortune and little times of marriage and things like that. So this is not a complete reflection of how I would personally add up your real elements here. So take that lightly, but it does show that you do have a lot of water in you too. So there's just a lot of emotional nature here and a lot of doing. And I just think with Mars in Pisces is interesting because your otherwise Mars energy to me feels very Aryan in nature, but you can kind of lean into your Pisces goodwill, I think, here, because with that Scorpio moon, you have a deep sensitivity. And with the Piscean Mars, you have a general like goodwill about you. So I think we can kind of soften that force of the Aryan energy. And then it's just going to help you have a larger impact. So Pisces is like, there's no boundaries to the wave of this love that it pours out. And I think with the Aries power behind it, like you can reach a lot more people when you get in touch, especially it looks like in the workplace, wherever you wind up working. You're going to need a spiritual connection to your job. And then you have like this limitless ability to influence and inspire with this like love undertone. So again, we need to make sure that we're having these creative outlets because all that water is expression and it can't stay bottled up or else you get these little outbursts. And Pisces Mars is motivated to spread and to experience. So let's make sure it gets a chance to do that because Pisces doesn't like to be bottled up or it just kind of bursts. Not super aggressively, but it's just an area that where you have a lot of go-getter and just do. This is a place that is more, it wants to feel, you know, it wants to feel things out too. All right. Let's see. That was just interesting. Let's see, was there oh yeah, any aspects to Mars? It looks like it's opposing your Juno. So where Mars is a little bit like independence and doing, Juno is more of our like relationship oriented, like more domestic, like personal relationships. So sometimes when they oppose each other, it can be, it can just show like battles between independence and cooperation, especially with people that you love or like relationships. So it'll be about balance here. And like your other themes, once you experience more um, gentle articulation of thoughts, then you can relieve any kind of these opposing forces that you feel in your domestic or intimate relationships. Sometimes you might feel like it's more worth to be just independent than to have to sacrifice who you are to make a relationship be um, smooth, and that's okay, because sometimes here it just shows that sometimes you do need to fight for what you need in the relationship. And if this shared agreement isn't working out because you're compromising too much of who you are, then sometimes it is okay to just walk away from it and not get hung up in, letting letting your needs get sacrificed for the sake of cooperation. That's not going to be in your nature. You need to you'd rather be independent than a lie of who you are. And I think that is something that comes up. But like I said before, with that Jupiter ascendant opposition there, like you don't need to worry about it. You need to stay true. Jupiter is saying, you don't have to you don't ever have to feel like you have to settle in a relationship because it's already got your back. It's bringing somebody into your life who's going to exponentially make things great for you. So just be who you are and don't settle and don't sacrifice who you are for anybody, because you don't have to. You're gonna be around the people that you wanted to learn from and eventually who you connect with. And part of getting there is being courageously yourself. So that is just all stepping stones to the goal there. And you probably already feel a lot of that with that Aries pushing you. There's probably not a lot that you want to compromise anyway. So I think the exalted Aries sun takes up so much energy, even when there's a lot of water too. In some charts, it's like, well, the water kind of waters down the fire, it kind of dims it, and we get more feeling, and we want to work on harmonizing. And sometimes we can play the victim because we just want to be told that we're appreciated and loved and everything's fine. But like the sun in Aries says, no, like I do care, but I'm not going to sacrifice who I am. Like I am here to fearlessly be who I am. So I think that's a really big gift for you. And it really helps just push you in the right direction of experiencing what you came here to experience. And Mercury and Aries too, it just gives you that harmony between what you think and what you do. So they're both in Aries. So you think you have these thoughts to get started on something and then you just do it. There's no middle ground where it doesn't happen. Sometimes you do it too soon. There can be an impulsivity there, but hey, at least you're trying, and there's no regrets for, you'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission sometimes here. And both of those things really help you connect with people that other placements would hesitate or wait for a sign or hold back. Like you don't have that, so you get through a lot of meeting people and situations and experiencing things because you have this sense of fearlessness and like destined action that you just can't help. Like you have to do it because you thought about it, and that's just the way you are. I'm trying to look here to see if there's anything else I really wanted to talk about here in the natal chart. Um, don't think so. Let me see here if we can pull up any. coming up transits. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second. And then let's see if I can get back to your charts. Share that. This way we can look at any transits coming up. So I had it on that sheet because I want you to be able to see what I'm going to send to you before I send it to you, just so I had a chance to explain it. Oh, and let's do current transit. So we have Avani is the inner, and then we have transits on the outer. And right now, let's see where anytime Jupiter or Venus is transiting a house, that's where you can physically see some easier times or you feel like inspired to do something. So I like to go through those to give some inspiration here for what we can expect. So you have the Venus in your first house. So the outer, so you have a few things going on, but let's focus on Venus. So now's a good time to focus on your physical body, caring for that, doing things that feel good for yourself, and not so much with concern of what other people might think or needing to give a lot to other settings or situations of what else you need to do. Like now's a good time to just be like, well, what can I do for myself physically that makes me feel good? Do I need to get into an exercise? Do I need to get new clothes? Is there something I wanted to do with my style, like my look overall, like my brand? Am I happy with the way I am portraying my physical body to the world? I can do things to make myself feel better. So that can be physically, but self-esteem too. You know, am I showing myself love? And you might be inspired to try something different. Or in Libra, usually that has some kind of aesthetic appeal. And it's just kind of like whatever you try to do right now, it's going to give you long-term happiness with your physical body. So that's kind of a fun placement. And then let's see, there's Jupiter over here in your 8th house. Jupiter stays a little longer. So for a while now, you're going to be having an expansion of deeper connections with people. So you might find that you're getting like either like actual gifts from people, or sometimes there's like an inheritance going on. It doesn't always have to be monetary. It can just be like right now, because it's the women in your life can be giving you good advice or support, or you just want some kind of deeper connection. Sometimes like when Jupiter is going through the 8th house, you find out like stuff about your family, like it's a maternal line, like things you didn't know before. You can learn uncover some opportunities to get these like great stories from people that you had never known before. It's like the trials and tribulations time where you didn't really know that somebody went through all that and came out better. It's like this inheritance of deeper meanings and truths about that line. It's going to be here for a little while, so let's see. Calculator here. So let's see where it's still all the way through the new year. April, June is moved on. So Jupiter is in the 8th house until mid-June. So it can be that, or it can be connections if you are just trying to get to know someone better. It's more of a personal one-on-one, trying to get to know someone better. And in Jupiter, it's like these this expansion of your knowledge of them and Gemini communicating with them. So it's like a deeper relationship than you've had before. And this is long term, but it is with someone else. So it's not with yourself. And sometimes there can be these karmic feelings or like even like the spiritual sense to it. Or if you feel like there's someone that you're like destined to know better and you feel like you have this history with them that you can't figure out, like that can be that influence here. And they're just, they can share wisdom with you. You're benefiting from this deeper connection with them at this time. And then Mars transiting your seventh house. Let's see when that's a shorter transit here. So it starts in May. And I talked about Mars for you because you have a lot of Martian energy. So it looks like in the start of May. Let's try to get it exactly. All right, so it's like May 13th. You'll have Mars in the seventh house, so that's kind of far away. But that's when you have all this Aries energy already, and then look, it all comes back. So just be prepared. That's when we can have feelings flying around. Some Mars, like, you know, it's the planet of war, battling it out with people that are really close to you. So let's just be prepared that if you are having more conflicts with people at that time, it'll pass by June. Mars is a fast moving planet, so nothing stays super long. It looks like till June 16th. Just be ready for those interpersonal relationships to be a little heated. And it caught my eye because your seventh house is so full already that you do get a lot from interactions. So you can just be prepared for that to be like a heated time. And Mars isn't always like war for the sake of battle. It can be just a time of just like passion too. So it doesn't have to be a negative thing, but it is just higher, more volcanic action. So those will be some areas going into the new year that might draw your attention and get you fired up. All right, I think we'll stop here. And let me know if you have other questions or if there's some transit that you wanted to look at that we didn't talk about. I would keep these and I'll pull them up again if you want to know something else. All right, talk soon.